The return ritual, the list lay there, immaculate on the kitchen table, each item written in the perfect handwriting that Sarah had developed over the years. Underscore college-ruled notebooks to 10 units, blue pens to 12 units, HB pencils to 24 units. Underscore, the numbers seemed to pulse on the paper, as if they were more than simple quantities, as if they were coordinates for something much larger and more sinister. The first sign that something was wrong came at the stationery store. Sarah pushed the cart through the narrow aisles, religiously following her list, when she noticed that all the other parents made exactly the same movements. There was no variation, no hesitation. Each hand reached for the same shelves, in the same sequence, with the same mechanical precision. Their faces remained empty, focused, as if they were executing a choreography rehearsed for decades. Organize an adequate study space, she remembered from advice she had read somewhere. Underscore, a structured environment promotes effective learning. Underscore, but when she got home and began arranging Emma's room, her hands seemed to move on their own. The books aligned on the shelf with a precision she didn't remember seeking. The pens organized by color in gradations that formed hypnotic patterns. Each object found its place as if there were an invisible map guiding her movements. Emma was strangely quiet throughout the entire process. The 8-year-old girl, normally chatty and curious, watched with glazed eyes while Sarah transformed the room into something that looked more like an altar than a study space. The walls, once decorated with childish drawings, now displayed only the school calendar, those small squares marking the days like a countdown to something inevitable. Establish consistent routines, echoed another voice in her mind. Underscore predictability reduces childhood anxiety. Underscore Sarah began timing everything. 7 minutes for breakfast, 3 minutes to brush teeth, 15 minutes for a bath. But the numbers were arbitrary. They seemed to have been whispered in her ears by a source she could identify. Emma followed the schedules with disturbing obedience, as if she too were hearing the same silent instructions. The nights became preparation rituals. Sarah found herself organizing and reorganizing the school supplies, checking and rechecking each item on the list. Her hands trembled slightly when she touched the new notebooks, as if they radiated a strange energy. The blank pages seemed hungry, waiting to be filled with something more than simple lessons. Prepare your child emotionally for changes, murmured the inner voice that now accompanied her constantly. But what changes? Emma was just returning to the same school, with the same teacher, in the same classroom. Why then did Sarah feel as if she were preparing her daughter for a journey of no return? The discovery came on the eve of the first day of school. Sarah was storing the last materials in Emma's backpack when her fingers found something at the bottom, a paper she didn't remember putting there. It was a yellowed sheet with a list written in the same perfect handwriting she had used, but with items that made her freeze. Underscore childhood memories, -1 unit for disposal. Natural curiosity, -1 unit for suppression. Individuality, -1 unit for standardization. Soul to 1 unit for collection. Underscore. Sarah looked at Emma, who slept peacefully in her bed, and realized that the girl's face had lost all the expressiveness that once characterized her. The features were smooth, uniform, as if they had been molded by invisible hands during sleep. That dawn, Sarah finally understood the truth about returning to school. It wasn't about education or growth. It was about harvest. Each year, the children returned a little different, a little emptier, a little more suited to the mold that society had prepared for them. And the parents, like her, were the unconscious instruments of this process, following lists, play, and routines they hadn't created, preparing their children for a transformation they couldn't see. When the alarm clock rang at 6 in the morning, Sarah watched Emma get up with mechanical movements, put on her uniform with military precision, and pick up her backpack without showing any emotion. The girl who had been her daughter was ready for another year of molding, and Sarah, with growing horror, realized she was already mentally preparing the list for next year.